So today, let's get to the point. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about one news item and how that directly impacts the real estate market. And today we're going to talk about tariffs. So first of all, we know the Trump administration is implementing a 10% tariff on China and 25% on Canada and potentially Mexico. We'll get to Mexico in a second. But the way that works is very simple, because a lot of Americans have a misconception on the way tariffs work. The incoming country, whether it be China and or Mexico or Canada, the product coming from that country, they don't pay the tariffs. The tariffs are paid by the corporation that purchased the product. Case in point, for myself, if I am the corporation, I purchase from Canada, and when I purchase from Canada, I have to pay the 25% conceivably or 10% on top of the cost of the goods. And that, my friend, is now pushed onto the consumer, to us, the American people. We now have to cover the cost of those margins that the corporation loses. The ultimate rationale is that as a corporation, you choose to not purchase from China and or Canada, and you purchase from a country that doesn't have those tariffs levied, and or you purchase within the US, and so you eliminate those tariffs altogether. But odds are, at this late juncture, these corporations will continue to purchase from Canada, from potentially Mexico, from China, and then we, the consumers, are going to cover the cost. So now let's talk about how tariffs directly impact first-time home buyers. We all know this is a supply and demand issue. We know post-pandemic, there's been a 40% increase in home prices. And so where do 70% of the imported goods, this is soft lumber and gypsum, where does that come from? That comes from Mexico and Canada. Currently, there isn't a tariff on Mexico. There's a 30-day pause on that. However, the Trump administration is definitely implementing 25% on Canada and potentially, again, 25% to Mexico. So as a home builder, what are you going to do? You have one of two options. Number one, you choose to not build additional homes because of the additional tariffs. And you just push the price point because we know that there's a supply and demand issue, or you choose to build more homes. As a result of that, that cost is pushed to the consumer, the first-time home buyer. Now, you also have to consider we have interest rates that are hovering at 6% because inflation is still yet to go down. And so now you couple increased cost for the home builders that's going to be pushed onto consumers, coupled with interest rates, that causes for a lot of additional costs that home buyers simply cannot undertake. And now let's think about the grander picture. Now in LA, we have the fires in LA. This is a period where there's going to be the potential for rebuilding these communities. And what happens now, the cost of rebuilding becomes that much more expensive. And there's this bit of a misnomer that everyone in LA is uber rich and has tons of money. There are a lot of these towns where they're just middle class, upward middle class maybe, homes and homeowners where they simply can't afford to rebuild, coupled with the cost of construction and tariffs. Now, there's a bit of a silver lining of sorts. Some home builders are trying to push to the Trump administration to not include home building costs or like lumber and gypsum in the 25% tariffs that are being implemented to both Canada and potentially Mexico. So I'd love to get your thoughts, your comments. Let's engage a little bit. Tell me, how are you going to combat this? What are you going to do? Are you going to choose not to move forward and purchase a home? Are you going to continue to rent? What are the next steps for you? So for this and many other news items that directly impact you, continue to follow Estate Media for all your latest news information.